Well, I wanted to start, Linda, by asking you, how did you first meet Lord Alan Sugar?
I first met Alan Sugar probably in the early 80s, late 70s, when he had a company called Amstrad, and I had a knitwear business called Honeysuckle. And I met him in the Far East circuit. He would travel to Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the same as me. And so that's how we first met. And we became acquaintances, not socially friendly, but through the years, friendly.
What's it like, what sort of working alongside him, and specifically off camera? Because obviously, is the relationship and the way that the relationship is together the same off camera as it is on camera?
Yes, Alan is very natural. So what you see on camera is just how he is. He's
Brilliant.
quite witty, he's got quite a dry sense of humour. And I think you can tell very easily he doesn't suffer fools. And he's just like that. There's really very little difference with him off camera to on camera, which is probably why he's so good on the show.
Yeah, he's brilliant to watch. Is it true that you started your first business, Honeysuckle, at the age of 15?
Yes, it is. I didn't actually start Honeysuckle at 15, but I started on a market stall younger than that, selling ladies' fashions. And then I progressed into retail and then into wholesale. And Honeysuckle evolved from having a series of market stalls, retail business. And when I had 15 market stalls across Yorkshire, I then opened a wholesale business in Leeds, where I'm from. And then I had quite a lot of buying power. And at that stage, I had a friend who was Chinese, and he said, why don't you go to Hong Kong? And I've got quite a creative mind. So I always I had a passion for knitwear. And Honeysuckle evolved from that. So it wasn't just an idea, I think I'll start an importing business. It's evolved, as many businesses do.
Wow. And then, so did you ever have a struggle, because you were still so young, right? Even when that must have launched a specific brand.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a solid business plan, or did it just keep evolving?
I mean, I didn't, because I was so young. And I still say to people today, you never know. Where you start is not where you end up. It's good to have a vision. It's good to be driven and motivated. But no, I didn't. I didn't have a plan, and the business really did evolve, because I was so young but I just kept being driven. And probably because I was in a situation where I didn't really have a lot to lose, because I started off on very humble beginnings. But once I was on the road, so I can't say, unlike the applicants I interview where they come with a set business plan, I'm starting here and I'm going to end up there. I didn't have that. I really didn't.
And you proved that you didn't need it. What about, because you floated the London Stock Exchange with that company?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm really interested to know sort of the process of that and the responsibilities it brings with it, and you as a founder of that business, sort of how does it change?
Well, actually, it brings a lot of responsibilities with it, perhaps more than I realized. But at the time I floated, I followed Anita Roddick, who floated. So women really were not at the forefront of business. And it was quite a novelty for a woman who headed a company to float on the stock exchange. So the interesting part was that I started really early on then to give a lot of talks to the city and brokers, who were all quite fascinated to understand where my business education came from. And I said, well, actually, it just came, I was a market trader. And as Alan started selling aerials out the back of a van, I think there's really no better training, than trading on a market stall and really starting from the beginning. So I think that in those days, women were not at the forefront, and that's why I think still today I'm able to give talks and I'm able to be inspirational to people, because I believe still today, look, I'm an advocate of education. I've got 3 sons who are educated, but you can still be a success. Education comes in many forms. I was educated in street life, but so there are responsibilities, obviously, once you float your business on the stock exchange. There's lots of responsibilities, but really and truthfully, if you follow the business, you have to be open, and you have to be open anyway in business. So I mean, I didn't really have to adapt too much, because my focus was always on my business, always on my company. I was always driven and motivated. So I didn't really have to do a lot other than keep the profits going, which is what I did.
And what would you say are the top three, maybe business principles that you might have learned, or that you would advise someone would need, maybe business principles or qualities in somebody to be a successful?
Well, perseverance. You have to persevere, because there are ups and downs, and knee-jerk reactions or giving up is not the way forward. So perseverance, I would say motivation, keep yourself motivated. It's very, very important. Be driven. And I think what I would say is have goals, but make them realistic goals. You can't, when I do the interviews on The Apprentice, you get these people and they come with a business plan, and you can't run before you can walk. So have realistic goals. You can dream to be a billionaire, but make sure it's achievable. And one of the most important aspects, I think, of life and of business is relationships.
And obviously running a business of any level is a journey, right? And like you said, perseverance is so important, and you're going to experience highs and lows. What advice would you give to somebody that's experiencing the lows in terms of keeping up that motivation, which is obviously so important?
Okay, well, so don't be afraid to ask for help. If you feel you're failing or you're struggling, you shouldn't be afraid to seek help. You can always find people around you. I mean, unless you're just an isolated person, ask for people, ask for help, see where you're going wrong, maybe get someone to mentor you. If your basic idea is successful, but you're stumbling a bit, just get help and don't give up, and sometimes you fail at something, but it might set you up for your next success. So, I've sort of had several different businesses across my life. And that's why I say relationships are so important, because businesses also, a lot of them are teamwork as well. But don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say I'm struggling. Don't be afraid to speak out.
In terms of The Apprentice, have you got a favourite candidate from the previous seasons that you've watched and been involved with?
Not really. I think, look, no, my interviews are never personal against the candidates. To get to the final five, they've all done pretty well, because it's quite a grueling process, and they have to go through a lot of different principles in business to get to the final five. So I would never say I have a favorite. They're all good in different ways. Some make it to the final, some don't, but they all tried really hard. So no favorites.
Sure. Okay. And in terms of people that are applying for high positions and preparing for interviews, what are your top interview tips?
So have a good CV, and don't make it too long. You need a short CV that gets to the point and gives you good qualities. Nobody really wants to know if you swam 100 lengths when you're 12 years old. It's boring. When you go in for an interview, look smart, look the person there, try to do some research before you go into the interview on the job. And if you can possibly find out who's interviewing you, that's always good. So you know a little bit about it. Don't start with how much holidays you'll get or how much, start with the interest in the job. If your interviewer asks you a question and you don't know the answer, or you can't do it, don't waffle. Say, look, I don't know that answer. I can't do that, but I want to learn. So show that you're willing, show that you are motivated and you really want the job. And I think that's the best advice. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know that, and good research is always good to know a little bit about what you're doing, so you're not stumbling. And make sure that you go for a job that you really want to do, and your enthusiasm will be natural.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a little bit of a story here. I applied for The Apprentice once, and I got shortlisted, and I made it to the final interview of the day, to the top of the building.
Yeah,
It's about a 10-hour process, I think. And I was really quite confident, not overly confident, but I just felt within myself that I was good enough. And I actually buckled on the very last moment on the video section. I just completely thrown. And it's kind of a regret, kind of, because inside of me, I kind of had the answer, but I just froze really. And I wanted to, on the back of that, ask you, do you have any regrets in business?
Yeah, I do actually. Yes, I do. I think anyone who goes through life and say they don't have any regrets in business, it's simply not true. I do have some regrets in business, of course I do. Overall, I would say I've had more successes than regrets, but yeah, there are things that I have regrets about.
Can you elaborate on any of them and maybe how you overcome them?
Well, I think this is quite a known story, but my biggest regret was when I started my fashion business. Matalan, what is Matalan was my customer, but in those days they were JMax. It was a small out of town warehouse business, and I was quite friendly with John Hargreaves, who was the owner. And he came to me and he said, "Look, I want to expand, and I'm looking for £250,000 investment." And at that time, we were expanding our own business, and we didn't give the investment. And then I had dinner with him a couple of years. He said, "Linda, if you'd have done that £250,000 investment, it would have been worth 300 million today." So I think that's one of the major regrets. But yes, I've had things that I have regretted, but you have to overcome them and look at the things that you've done that you don't regret.
Can you throw us some top tips for businesses and entrepreneurs looking for investment?
Well, if you're looking for investment, have a good story. Look, not everything can be written down in a business plan, but the bones of it has got to be good. So that's the first thing. The bones of what your investment is has got to be attractive to someone. And then the other thing, which I say to the candidates on The Apprentice, is make it realistic. Say, look, maybe if we invest this is how we're going to go. Show there's a growth pattern, not, give me this and we'll be there. So I think the bones has got to be good. It's got to be relevant. It's got to be attractive.
What's your proudest achievement to date?
I mean, I've had lots of proud moments. I've sold businesses, I've floated businesses, but I guess being asked by Alan to go on The Apprentice, because that was quite something for me, and it made me very proud that he asked me, and I think I'm a successful interviewer, and that has allowed me to share. If I'd never been on The Apprentice, you'd never be interviewing me now. So that has allowed me to share my business journey. So I guess one of the proudest achievements is actually being asked to go on The Apprentice, and sort of because Alan was specific with me what he wanted. He said, "I want someone who's going to dig deep, expose weaknesses, give good television." And I think that after my first show 7 years ago, I had a full page in the Telegraph which said, "Who is Linda Plant, the new interviewer?" So that made me very proud that I could deliver what he wanted, and it's allowed me to diversify completely into an area where I give talks, where I can be inspirational to mothers and to women, because even today, women, I'm a mother, I'm a woman in business, and I've had a long journey, and I can share my experience with a lot of people. I've done some mentoring, so I think I'm very proud of being able to go on The Apprentice.
Rightly so. I mean, what a platform as well, and a great achievement. I wanted to ask you the question that I buckled on when I made it to the top floor of The Apprentice was, tell us something funny about yourself. And I just wasn't prepared for it. I had all the business numbers in. It just threw me off. And I would like to ask you that same question, if you wouldn't mind.
I was very shy. Nobody ever believes that when I say I was a very, very shy child. Obviously, I think that when people meet me, I'm different to how I am on The Apprentice, because on The Apprentice, I mean, yes, I will tell you one funny story. My colleague on The Apprentice, Claudine Collins, she's not on it this year, but we became good friends, and I invited her to my house for dinner one night. She came with her daughters, and her daughters were afraid to come to the dinner because they said, we're afraid to meet her.
Oh,
And I've become very good friends with those girls now. So yeah, I think, I was a very shy little kid. So, if someone's shy, you can overcome it. And what really, I think, overcame my shyness was because I became successful in business, and that gave me confidence. And confidence is another thing that's very, very important, in yourself, to be confident. Believe in yourself. That's so important in business, and you're going for an interview. That's why I say research is important, because if you've done your research, you're confident.
Well, honestly, thank you so much for sharing your inspiration journey and top tips. And
it's a pleasure. You can use whatever you like. I hope I help some students. If I've helped someone, that's really good.